right, part 2 of Pantjar talk about the Guru's rant about the Pantjar. So, I was talking about how the original Pantjar from Pak Serak was a triangle, a cross, and then a square on top. And it looks like a stick figure of a human being. That was the original one, okay? That's what Pak Serak taught his students, and that's what was passed down to Masjid and all the different lineage holders, which eventually got over to the DeThouars. Later on, Uncle John DeVries and Uncle Paul DeThouars, Uncle Maurice, and Willem started looking at old fencing manuals, because in the family on the DeThouars side there was a general, Admiral prt2, who was a fencer also. And so the DeThouars had fencing on their side of the family, on their father's side. And the DeVries also knew about fencing because the Dutch had fencing. So you need to understand that Serak is influenced by not just Indonesian silat and Chinese kuntao, but it's also influenced by Dutch bare knuckle boxing, which is where we get our pukulan from, and from fencing, from the Dutch fencing, which goes back to the Spanish fencing, okay, and from the French fencing. So the DeVries and the DeThouars were looking at old fencing manuals, and they noticed that in the fencing manuals they had all these intricate lines and crossing lines and vertices and perpendicular lines and stuff inside of the geometric shapes. And I don't know exactly who, but one of them said, hey, we could superimpose that into the Pantjar. And lo and behold, after that, the rest is history. The Pantjar became intricate and started having many, many lines and many, many crossings and things like that. And so it really came from fencing and fencing strategy and mentality mixed in with the old way of old silat, old geometry, if you will. So you kind of had a merging of Eastern and Western Europe sacred geometry mixed in with the Asian geometry, and how to apply it in combat, how to apply it as strategy, how to apply it to the human body, both offensively and defensively, and tactically as a target selection situation. So, in a nutshell, the Pantjar that you see now, that's used by the DeThouars, has been heavily influenced by the original Pantjar by Pak Serak, which had its own curriculum, which was walking the triangle, walking the straight line, walking the cross, walking the square, walking the zigzag, walking the 90-degree staircase, and then walking a doubling of each shape. For example, you could do a double triangle, a double square, a double cross. You could do, a combination. So all of this has influenced how they do things. I'm talking to you on a phone, on a video, so I can't show you, plus I'm driving. But my recommendation would be to study with someone who knows this stuff if you want to learn it, okay? There's so much depth to it, and it can be applied to so many things. It could be applied to fighting. It could be applied to structural alignment of your body. It could be applied to internal training. It could be applied to healing. It could be applied to simply spatial awareness. I mean, there's so much to it. So if you look at the Spanish fencing, like the Destreza and the different Spanish fencing manuals, you'll see a lot of the same stuff that the DeThouars were teaching. And if you look at the Dutch manuals, it's the same thing. And I think Thibault, I think is his name, one of those fencing manuals, there's so much information there. And I can guarantee you, okay, I know this to be true because the DeThouars themselves told me this. It comes from the fencing manuals, and that's what influenced the Pantjar. So when you see people now using the Pantjar that are not from Serak, and they look like the Serak Pantjar, and they're giving you this horseshit story that it came from, so-and-so in Indonesia, it's not true. The only thing that did come from Indonesia, okay, were the kuda-kudas, the jurus, the original shapes, okay, the straight line, the square, the cross, the zigzag, the 90-degree staircase, the circle, okay? All the other intricate stuff, the hash marks, the lines that are crossing, all the intersections and all that stuff came from fencing, okay? So you heard it from me. That's the truth. God bless.